Welcome, everyone. We now have quorum, and I believe everyone is logged in. Please correct me otherwise. We are going to begin the Oklahoma City Arts Commission's July 18th, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting. Before the commission votes on each item, I will ask staff to provide details on each case. I will ask if the applicant has anything to add, and I will ask if any members of the public wish to speak. If you wish to address the Arts Commission, you will be recognized. You will go to the side podium one at a time and state your name and address for the record and begin your comments. Please limit those comments to no more than 3 minutes. Commissioners, please remember today that all motions, seconds, and votes will be made through PrimeGov. So I will be recognizing the motions and seconds that show up on the screen. Our next item is acceptance of the meeting minutes from the June 13th, 2022 regular meeting. I hope everyone has read through these minutes, and if there are no corrections to be brought to our attention, I will entertain a motion and a second. Commissioners, remember that if you were not present for the meeting, please abstain from voting.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cooper and seconded by Commissioner Salyer. You may now vote on the screen. Yes. That's smart. That must be a new update. It passes. Were you unable to vote because you were absent at the last meeting?
Yeah, the thing popped up, but it said voting not available. And on my screen, it's
So the answer is yes.
I think it would have marked you as absent if you.
I was marked as absent.
Okay. Item number 3, items for discussion and action. Item 3A, Rise Up, O Douglasites, exterior murals by Anthony Chase for Douglas Park baseball dugouts in Ward 7. Randy, can you present this item?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for being here today. So I suppose every single mural project, and indeed every art project, provides an opportunity for somebody to do something extraordinary. Commissioner Kovacs, you having trouble? Is that okay? Is this better? Okay. And it was certainly true of this project. It's a relatively small project, and yet it carried some great expectations along with it. No. Maybe that's the problem. Thank you. There we go. So Tony Thunder, also known as Anthony Chase, saw these expectations and really hit it spot on. He took all of the requested components, the baseball players, community leaders, community legends, other sports heroes, and combined them all together in a way that wasn't trite, but that was of the moment and yet spoke to a design aesthetic of the past. So with a combination of fresh style and the use of symbolism, he got across the story that was intended to be told. This is the site. On the left of your screen, you see Douglas High School, Douglas Park, and I'll just say a note, Douglas Park is a sprawling park that includes all of the James E. Stewart Golf Course, the clubhouse, the new Willa Johnson Rec Center. There's even cricket courts on part of the park, way out to the southeast. So it's a huge park that was originally the fairgrounds way back in the day. The baseball diamond is actually owned by the city and is part of the park, but it's used by the baseball team of Douglas High School. And you see the dugouts there. Councilwoman Nice was the one that brought this to our attention and said, you have 1% funds for the park. I think it'd be a good idea to paint murals on the 2 dugouts at the ballpark. We thought that was a good idea and launched this project that way. So pending council approval on August 2nd, Tony will take about a month of August to paint the murals on both of the on both of the dugouts. And he's going to have at least one apprentice who is a student or an incoming student at Douglas High School in the fall, helping on the project. This is a $24,000 project, but as a relatively small project, it still is going to be a compelling addition to Oklahoma City's public art collection. On the north-facing wall of one of the dugouts, you'll see community leaders and also figures from the past. Obviously, Frederick Douglass, Zelia Bro is the individual in the middle, and Inman Page was the first president of Langston University and later a principal at Douglas High School. Ralph Ellison is represented by the sculpture, The Invisible Man, and you see the keys, the microphone, and so on, that symbolizes Jimmy Rushing. So I won't go through all the rest of that, but here's a close-up. And then the other dugout will feature sports heroes and other elements from the community. You see the Douglas High School marching band there. Prentice Scott, the first black football player at the University of Oklahoma, a proud Douglas grad. You see his hand there, number 38 on the football. So again, Tony chose symbolism to convey the story as well as just a lineup of pictures. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I thought that Prentice Gott's name was G-A-U-T-T. Is there an R in it? I mean, I've seen it printed before that didn't have the R, but that doesn't mean it was correct when I saw it before.
It's G-A-U-T-T. If there's something else, it's a...
There's more than one place here where it's misspelled.
It's just a typo.
Okay.
I know that the early images on this do depict some significant women, but the actual sports and music iconography does not. It's very gender specific to men. I was wondering if that was addressed at all in any of this.
I think I missed the gist of what you were saying there at the first, Commissioner.
Yeah, sorry about that. While a couple of women are actually representative in the initial, I don't know what they're icons, obviously, but the sports metaphor icons and the music metaphor icons are very gender specific to men, and I wonder if there was a reason for that.
I don't have an answer to that.
Because I would expect that there's probably some sports figures and some music figures that were women that came from Douglas that should be represented in these particular ones, like the west-facing wall. Those are all men. So
There is at least one other female that will be represented. It was a later addition, some
Understood.
revisions that Tony did to the work. So Mrs. Edwards, you may be familiar with the Edwards edition and the Edwards Hospital. Mrs. Edwards will also be illustrated. It seems like there's one more that was added, but I can't say that for sure. Did you have any specific recommendations that you would like to make?
I just think that these are mainly generic figures in the music and the sports walls without the actual icons on them. There should be women in there.
Okay.
There should be a woman swinging a bat or a woman playing a trombone or something like that, something along those lines. Easy fix.
Real quick, the band is probably generic, but the figure swinging the bat and the basketball team and the football players aren't. The basketball team is the Douglas High School team. They won 5 straight championships. I went to all those championships, and all of these were suggestions that either the committee made, the selection committee made, or Councilwoman Nikki Nice made. But other than the band, just the others are specific people and specific times. But everybody that's on here that he did. He even went back and made revisions were suggestions from Councilwoman Nikki Nice.
Any other questions?
Any questions from commissioners? Hearing none, I will open the floor for a motion through PrimeGov. Yes, Commissioner Booker. Okay, let's, I think Steve has been resolved, Commissioner Hill has been resolved, based on that I have a motion from him, but we need to make sure that Commissioner Booker can also. Okay, that is what it should say. We have a second from Commissioner Salyer as well. And any further discussion? Hearing none, we can now vote on the screen.
It's not,
I
it's not.
think you need to get out of the presentation mode.
Thank you.
Computer.
Thank you.
Do we have votes from everyone? Okay.
I can't.
Click on computer on that.
Can I add one more thing about the Douglas mural? Is that cool?
Comment from
Yeah, just a
Commissioner
quick
Williams?
comment.
Yes.
There were several really good presentations that were presented to the selection committee, and I think that oftentimes whenever we think about, especially Douglas or the East Side, when I say we, I mean people who live on the East Side or grew up on the East Side. Especially right now, we think of it in context of a lot of these things that are being done on the East Side aren't generally done for us. They're made and they're done for people who will be there 5 and 10 years from now. And so, this specific mural, I think, represents us well, and I think that it's for the kids who go to Douglas, for the people who live in the community. I feel like it tells the past, present, and future. To have the 2010 championship team on a mural, I can legit call some of those kids and say, and get them excited about, about a depiction of them being placed at their high school that they graduated from. And I think that's important because whenever we think about the history and we think about the future, especially today, we often see pictures and murals of historic figures, and it's hard to touch it, as far, what I mean, when I say touch it, I mean like relate to it. And I think this one, there are people who can relate to it because they lived through a lot of what we're seeing in that mural. And so just as somebody, who knows about all those people, it's important to see people like Jimmy Rushin, and it's important to see FD Moon and all these people whose names we know, but who may not know their faces. But also at the same time, we get to see people who are living history, people who are, who are walking around today, and who some may not even realize, accomplished what, say, like the 2010 basketball team accomplished. So I think it's really exciting. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That passed, by the way. I don't know if I said that. I did pass. Thank you. Item 3B, Trash Monster, which is a working title by Gabriel Friedman, a temporary installation for Lower Scissortail Park in Ward 6. Randy, can you present this item?
So the Trash Monster brings together at least 3 of the currents in Gabe Friedman's work, which are, let's say in his life. So his passion and interest in art, the environment, and also things that kids like. So you see these things recurring in Gabe's work. This will be a temporary sculpture installed at the lower part of Lower Scissortail Park. And there you see the rendering of the park that's it on the left, the sculpture on the right. It'll be sited close to where the permanent artwork for Lower Park will be, which is right at the base of Overlook Hill at Knuckle Plaza. This will be a little bit further south of that where the red star is. So the work will be constructed of pieces of trash that'll be collected by volunteer, not just any old trash, but that kind of trash that seems to have a life of its own and will last several years. Gabe will weld an armature for everything to go on and then securely fasten the trash to that. So the work will likely be on site for around 2 years, and very conveniently, it'll probably be ending its show about the same time that the new work will be installed. So there will be some prominent work down at the park throughout the early days of Lower Scissortail. So Gabe happens to be here today, as well as Lisa Sinar. Should say that this piece is being paid for by Oklahoma City Beautiful. So Lisa has a vested interest in this piece, and both of those individuals are available for comment, and I think Gabe is even prepared for some show and tell.
Can I ask the artist to approach the podium? Okay. Randy, I do think we have a question for you, maybe in the
Yeah,
meantime.
could you just briefly go over the time frame of this one versus the one that's going to be permanent?
Yes, so this one will, Gabe can tell you more exactly, but the hope is to have it installed, I believe, sometime by September. Is that
by
correct?
the opening, that's the goal.
Okay.
And I actually haven't heard from Maureen what the actual opening date is, but we're all hustling.
The opening is kind of a moving target. The park is actually finished right now, but there will be a specific grand opening, and we don't know what that date is yet.
So you have, do you have a time when the new RFI is going to go out for the new sculpture, the permanent sculpture?
I talked to Maureen about this today, so we'll be coming to you with this proposal sometime within the next couple of commission meetings. So that particular project may be handled in a somewhat different fashion than a lot of our 1% projects, so that's a little teaser. More on that in the future. But what I would imagine is that the selectional process itself, it'll take months and months, and then the piece will be a fairly major piece, so it'll take at least a year from the time of selection to installation. So I'm just imagining that they'll probably match up fairly closely. And it's up to the option of the park also. They may elect to keep the work a little bit longer. We'll write the maintenance agreement so that that is a possibility if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can you state your name and address for the
Yeah.
public record?
Gabriel Friedman at 2017 Northwest 21st in Oklahoma City, 73106, Gatewood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add about the creation of this?
I'm really excited about it. I've been making art kind of in secret out of trash pretty much my whole life. And when Lisa and OKC Beautiful approached me, it was kind of a dream come true. So I love using materials that already have a life, and I feel like anytime anyone uses something, it adds a little life to it, and unfortunately, people throw out perfectly good materials all the time. So yeah, we're going to be working with OKC Beautiful, and they've been doing volunteer litter cleanups for how long?
56 years.
50 years. And so the volunteer teams will be starting to collect trash, or they've already started. They're going to be collecting trash for the next few months while I construct the frame. And also my partner Denise DeWong, which some of you might know, helped design the little girl, because she's a much better drawer than I am. So we have a little bit of collaboration. Yes?
What's Denise's piece going to be made from?
That's going to be metal, and so it'll be kind of like a cardboard cutout, but it'll be a steel and painted. So it'll be, the idea is that the little girl could be easily replaced by a viewer, like the viewer could stand in the place of the little girl and kind of become engaged with the art piece. And the little girl is obviously kind of like facing off the monster and scolding or, being active as opposed to passive or scared. So,
Commissioner Cooper?
I don't really have a question, but I had a couple things to say. I know that Oklahoma City Beautiful has had their litter blitz for many years, and they seem like the perfect partner for this enterprise. Also, several years ago, the Oklahoma City Museum of Art had an exhibit that an artist who all the installations that she did were from pieces of trash, and it can be amazingly an amazingly effective art installation. So I find it intriguing and look forward to seeing it.
yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Great conversation piece if you're down there in the park with those kids to explain to them about trash and how it builds up, and this
Yeah.
is what we're creating. So if I was a teacher, I would so welcome this opportunity to be able to use that as an example of what's happening in our environment at this time.
Absolutely. And another thing I want to add, just a side note, is that the Lower Scissortail is going to actually, they took initiative before we approached them. They're eliminating all single-use plastic in their lower park. And so it really lends itself to having a sculpture that's specifically about waste. So they are already offering as the location an alternative or different avenues for creating less waste. So, and we're gonna, the art marker is going to kind of address a lot of the direction that the piece is going in. As in, one of the main things is that we're not going to use almost any single-use plastic in the sculpture because it wouldn't hold up to the elements over the 2 years. And so for Scissortail to address that by not using it, it's kind of a perfect partnership, and we'll address that in the art marker. So,
Question.
yeah.
Like it's on or not, but how tall will the actual sculpture be, and then how tall will Denise's piece be?
Oh, that's good you asked. I brought a prop to show you. So imagine this little guy is about the size of an adult. So it's actually a little bit smaller, but the little girl's about the size of an 8-year-old. So, she'll be about 3 or 4 feet tall. And the trash monster, I'm aiming to have it from top to bottom be about 16 feet. And so the main part of the head, imagine like an adult looking about eye to eye with the actual eyes. So this is a very tall adult. This is an albino molar. Only thing I can find.
So, which brings me to my next question. I just see people climbing it, and will it be made to be interactive like that, or is it?
It's not designed to be climbed. And one of the things that Maureen at Scissortail is going to do is she wants to landscape around the edge of the monster, and that way it creates just a small barrier from people that are going to try to climb it. I'm also going to be really conscious of the actual materials to avoid any like hand holds, or I'm going to try to use as much smooth material on the lower as possible to avoid that. Yeah.
Commissioner Booker?
I would suggest perhaps having a speaker inside of it, so if anyone comes too close, a giant voice says, "Stay away." Something like that.
I like that idea. I think the interesting thing is that this is as close in the park as you can get to the river, and a lot of the trash is going to come out of the river. And so kind of the way I like to create sculptures is kind of create a story in my mind. And so in creating this, the concept is the monster's kind of coming out of the river. And so the hair pieces are more like tentacles. So it's, part human, part sea creature, part trash monster. And that's where all the design implements are coming from. And, it's coming out of the ground where the trash is being collected from on the ground. And it's got a human form because the trash comes from us. And then the tentacles are supposed to represent like a sea creature because it's coming from the river. And it's actually facing directly away from the river as if it's like leaving the river. So I'm also really excited about the location in relation to what the sculpture and where the sculpture is coming from. So,
Commissioner Loftus?
You've got real trash and synthetic trash, is that right? Or is it all real trash?
The frame of it's all going to be new steel, but all the skin is going to be brand new trash.
Brand new trash.
It will be thrown away, and then it'll be thrown out. It's going to be collected mainly in green spaces and around Oklahoma City.
You can put this on a steel frame?
Yes, yeah. So I'm working with my engineer to like work out all the details right now, but it's all going to be mainly like thicker plastics and thinner metals. So imagine, as far as thicker plastics, like really heavy-duty totes or coolers or playground equipment thickness, and then all the metal will be like roofing metal or signage kind of material, like stuff that's meant to be outside and last.
I've got a bookcase that I think if we cleared it, we could get something similar to this if you need some additional stuff.
You got a bookcase?
Well, no books, but
Is it thick plastic or thin metal?
Yes.
Okay, we are not donating trash to the art piece. Commissioner Cooper?
I now have a structural question.
Yes.
Since this is going to be a steel armature, is it going to be anchored in the ground?
Yes. Yeah, I'm working with my engineer right now about exactly how to anchor it. We're going back and forth between a concrete foundation and a traditional like concrete anchors and more non-traditional what's called earth anchors, and it's what the Oklahoma City Contemporary uses. They have it at their sculpture right now, and they're basically giant screws. So yes, it will be anchored to the ground, but the exact method we haven't figured out yet.
Will you have lighting?
Lighting is not part of it, no. If Scissortail opts to light it, that's an option, but that's not part of our budget or scope right now.
Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, I would open the floor for the motion and second on this item.
I'd move it, except I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I keep tapping it and it's not doing anything.
I want to move it.
I think, let's just wait a second. Is it? All of us are just in waiting mode.
I want to move it.
No one press the button if it shows up. Commissioner Loftus wants to be the first. Okay. Two commissioners did not listen. Okay. Moved by Commissioner Seward and seconded by Commissioner Kovash. You will only get to vote on this item. Any further discussion? Hearing none, you can vote. Okay. I believe that this passes. Thank you for the presentation and for attending today's meeting. Looking forward to seeing that piece. It's Lower Scissortail Park. Okay, item 4, our consent docket. All of these items are voted on at once, and no presentation on any of the individual items are going to be given unless a specific item needs to be pulled out by a commissioner. This is how we're moving forward. We've been doing this for most of this year at least, maybe even a full year, where all of our murals on private property have been put in the consent docket. So you can see 4 items. If anyone would like these items to be pulled out separately to be presented, they can. Please request that now. If not, they will be recommended as one item.
I'll make 2 comments about consent docket. We're following the practice of City Council, and former Councilwoman Salyer will attest that this is a huge time-saving mechanism for council. For commission, this is what Robbie instituted probably about a year ago, somewhat in anticipation of the ordinance change that's going to take place. And you can remember the flood of murals that have come that have taken up so much time. If there's anything that you saw in the packet that you want to call out, one of these, I can do a very short presentation. Otherwise, there'd be a motion and a second, and you vote on it, and we go on to item 5 on the agenda.
Hearing no discussion on these items or comments, this has been moved by Commissioner Cooper and seconded by Commissioner Hill, and you may now vote on it. Are we waiting on any votes? Commissioner Williams? That's always the one. This item passes. Thank you. Item number 5, discussion action on reports from committees. Commission Advocate. Commissioner Salyer, do you have anything to report?
I do. I just had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. We have so much going on. It's really exciting how busy our museums are. Oklahoma Contemporary had an opening on the 14th. It's called Destination Oklahoma, and it represents 5 artists that live across the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma City Museum of Art has recently opened the reimagined Chihuly exhibit. The glass has all been moved from the 3rd floor back to the ground floor, and the exhibit includes some pieces never seen here before that were provided to us by the studio. It also incorporates a collection of the Pendleton blankets and beautiful Native American baskets that are just wonderful. The Walter Yost Sports photography exhibit is closing over Labor Day, and if you haven't seen it, Steve, I hope you've been there, but they're really seriously great, iconic sports photographs that you'll all recognize, and then some really special things. There's a photograph of Bart Connor in the group that he had never seen before. He didn't know that picture had even been taken, so it was kind of fun to learn about. And there's a new collection of glass that also opens over Labor Day weekend, and it's a donation from the Rose family from Atherton, California. The local connection is Sarah Jane Rose and Jay Shanker family. And this is a very interesting complement to the Chihuly exhibit that we currently have. I think it will be really help tell a really interesting story. Plaza Walls, we just, we see our wonderful presentations from time to time, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that October 1st is the opening of the Mural Expo. Stephen, I don't know if you were a judge, but the application process is closed and ready for people to get started and open on October 1st. First Americans Museum, if you've all been out there, has serious dirt moving on the campus for the expansion around the museum, which is going to be incredibly exciting. There's going to be, in the next 9 months, a collaboration between First Americans Museum and the Oklahoma City Museum of Art of a Native American glass artist named Preston Singletary, and you all are not going to want to miss that. And then I wanted to go up the Turnpike. May 10th, the Bob Dylan Center opened in Tulsa with an amazing collection, his full collection, life and works of the amazing singer and songwriter. And Frida Kahlo exhibit is at the Philbrook, and it closes on September 11th. So if anybody hasn't been up to see that, that would be the same night as Michael Bublé. So you can go see Frida Kahlo and go to the BOK Center for Michael Bublé. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Arts and Culture Building Trust, in Brian's absence, I will give the report. We have made progress on the final survey to task force members, and I believe that will go out later this week. Lots of detailed changes that need to be made to it before it goes out to the task force. And based on the responses from the task force, then a memo or a report will be shared with Commission on the work of that task force, and it will be closed. So, item 6. Staff report. Randy?
I don't have anything specific to say right now, other than some things that we've been waiting on for a long time finally are on the move. We anticipate the RFQ for 2 trails projects to be combined in one RFQ and be announced on August 3rd after it goes to council on August 2nd, and then a small project at Hefner Park at the Performing Arts Center out there. More generally, sometime, I think it was about the middle of the week before last, suddenly it was like the floodgates opened and I started getting the 1% sheets from the upcoming MAPS 4 projects. And in the course of about 2 or 3 hours, I got $3 million of arts projects. Those are not $3 million construction projects, that's $3 million in 1% for art funds.
Wow.
So also about the same time, I found out that there were around 80 parks projects alone in MAPS and MAPS 4. And when I asked Melinda McMillan Miller about that, she said, oh, I think there's more than 80. So this is what we're looking at over the next few years. And this will be part of a discussion that we have coming up with me, with each one of you individually, and with all of you together, and that is, one, how do we effectively handle all of this? And I want you to see these as an opportunity for the Arts Commission to really exercise your voice. There has always been the opportunity, or maybe the clearest opportunity, for you to have an effect on art in Oklahoma City by serving on a selection committee. So we need to think about how this can be done effectively for all of you and keep the process moving and do these projects in a timely fashion. And there will be other discussions about that too. So I just want to let you know that from the standpoint of the 1% for art, there are exciting, very exciting days ahead. And if you heard the mayor's State of the City speech, or if you've read about what he said in the aftermath, there's going to be more than likely, it's not a certainty yet, but there's more than likely going to be a brand new arena in the not too distant future. So a lot of major public art is ahead for 1% for art, and then a lot of smaller projects like you just saw for Douglas Park, projects about that scale will be included also. And those are just as important to the fabric of the city, sometimes even more important to the fabric of the city as the great big showpieces are, because those are the ones that people live with day in and day out. You heard what Commissioner Williams said about the effect of that piece over in the area where he grew up. That's true in every quadrant of the city, And there's these small parks that can have a major impact in people's lives because it's a place that they own, that neighborhood owns, and they love and respect that park. And to have something special associated with that park is very important and meaningful to them. So anyway, I said I wasn't going to say much, but there's all of that.
Thank you, Randy. I'm going to move on to items from commissioners, and I'll start with an item from the chair, following up with what Randy had said, and that is revisiting our ordinance. I think that there are more opportunities to utilize a wider variety of art for some of these 1% projects. And with so many projects on the agenda, maybe that looks like a short film filmed in a park that then gets presented at Dead Center and becomes viewable for members of the public. Maybe that looks like music composition that ties in with the history of a park, or maybe this is dance choreography that, the RFQ is for dance choreography and music, and a performance is done at the park, but following that choreography is taught and shared with studios all over the city, and they can utilize it the next year in their curriculum. And so these are just examples, but I think that the ordinance actually allows us more freedom in diversity of art than what we have done in the past. And I think that we kind of needed a good base level of sculpture and murals, and there's still going to be a lot of good opportunities to do more of that type of work, but there are a lot of opportunities to do different things and be at the forefront of what public art looks like across the country, and be, a mover and a shaker and somebody that comes up with something cool, a way to use this money to impact neighborhoods differently and impact artists differently. And so to continue the discussion that Randy kind of started, I think there will probably be an upcoming study session where we get the chance to kind of give some ideas to staff about what these, could we get 50 ideas together for staff to have in a spreadsheet that when they meet with parks and see the next project sheet for a park and say, this looks like a cool place to do live music, or this looks like a cool place to do a interactive installation for a few weeks, or something like that, that there's a good database of ideas that they can look at to see what is the good fit for the neighborhood and for the location. And so don't be surprised if you get a request for your schedule to see if you would like to attend maybe a lunchtime or something like that. Study session, all up to quorum guidelines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's important for us to utilize this opportunity with so many projects on the agenda to make the most impact we can with the money that we have available to us in the 1%. So, yes. Commissioner Cooper.
Well, and I totally agree with all these projects that are going out in the various areas of the community, especially through parks, that it is really important, and I think that Commissioner Williams emphasized that. The neighborhoods and the stakeholders in these areas, it's important to consult with them and offer them the opportunity to participate in these projects so that they can have things that are special to them be part of the consideration process. And I don't want to get in the weeds about who benefits from maps and any kind of acrimony in that area, but the fact is that these are things that go on around our entire city, and what we do is an ideal opportunity to bring something to those neighborhoods that can be pleasing to them and be important to them.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner Cooper.
And I also have on another matter.
Yes.
And we may not have had the complete discussion regarding what you
Right.
just said. So I do have something else I want to say, but it's not with regards to this. It's with regards to something else.
Well, I do think it will be an ongoing discussion because it's certainly something that our program has expanded so much over time that we get the opportunity to actually think about these types of things that we may not have had in the past. Commissioner Kovash?
And I did want to underline something that may have just kind of passed by with our chairperson's introduction to this topic, is that we are not, as a body, and we were never intended to be limited to murals and sculptures. So this will be us flexing our arts commissioner muscles and saying, yes, we do dance, and yes, we do performance, and we do video and film and that sort of thing. So I think it's an excellent way for us to be going.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our charge through the ordinance extends to all forms of art. And we've had the opportunity to make a difference in the area of visual art, but it is not limited to visual art. It goes to all art forms.
Thank you.
Oh, you ready for
Commissioner
my
Cooper,
next?
on the next item.
The other comment was, I didn't know if Randy was going to say something or not, but at our last meeting, we approved a recommendation to honor Robbie Kinzel with a dedication for an art piece at the Upper Scissortail Park, the Taking Flight, and that was presented to the City Council on July the 5th. Randy and his colleague from the Planning Department made the presentation, and I was present. Two of the commissioners made very nice comments about Robbie and the work that she had done and her impact on the city. And then the council did approve it, so that has been approved.
That will be a wonderful dedication for Robbie. So, any other items from commission? Hearing none, we will look forward to our next regularly scheduled meeting on August 15th, and that will be held in person here at City Council chambers, and we adjourn. Thank you.
Could I make,
Yes.
Willis Alexander, the coach that used to be at Douglas.
What did he coach?
just before you go, let's just take a moment to acknowledge Robbie's passing. So when Commissioner Cooper made that very timely and heartfelt recommendation, I think it wasn't widely known how dire Robbie's situation was. And Commissioner Cooper intended that to be in honor of her ongoing contributions. Now, events overtook us, and so the honor is going to be posthumous for her. Unfortunately, there is not adequate words to say about Robbie, and so I'm not going to try too hard to fill that void, other than this is a horrific loss. It's a horrific loss for us as a commission, you guys as a commission, for us in planning department. For the city, there has never been a city employee who has loved her job the way that Robbie loved her job and dedicated herself to it. Never. So it is, I think, imperative, and it's imperative because it's what Robbie would want, that we acknowledge and we thank her in our own way, and we turn the page, always remembering but going on, because it's what you guys do from here that's important. You work together, many of you, for 10 years with Robbie to build a program that for its size is the best art program in the United States, and stands head and shoulders above many that have 10 times the staff that we have. And it was Robbie's vision and her ability to work with everybody at the city that she needed to pull in. It was always amazing to see the connections that she had and what she was able to do. The way that she brought everybody on board who spans the political spectrum to support this program. It's really kind of amazing when you look back on it. That's looking back. Looking forward, there are a lot of things that we'll be doing. Many of them will be a continuation of things that Robbie started, that we talked about daily in the office. And even if they didn't make it to commission yet, they would have, because in Robbie's all-encompassing vision, she had a plan for when those things would be introduced. So some of those things will keep on coming forward. Some of the things you heard about today were germinated in discussions that we had. And there will be new opportunities in the future. So anyway, we acknowledge the passing of a giant, and we go on from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy, so much for those great words. We miss her.
I hope, I don't know how we would go about doing this, but pass on to Robbie's family, her husband Larth, her daughter Isabel, and her son Wolf, the deep admiration that this commission and love that this commission had for her.
I think you'll see at an upcoming meeting some follow-up on this. And in case you haven't heard, the memorial services, it hasn't been scheduled yet, but it's planned generally for September, when Wolf can be back in the state for some extended time. So you all will be informed about that, of course, when that is scheduled. Okay. Thank you once again.